Hey everyone, day 3 today, and it's been a very interesting day. And I was talking to my husband this morning about how day 3 and day 4 and day 5 in the past have been very difficult days for me. And it's really interesting because most people think, oh, it's having to do with the not picking, and it has to do with all keeping all the concentration in your mind of, oh, is this a negative thought, or having to deal with all that kind of stuff. And that's actually not what the struggle is. Today is the day when my fingers actually start to heal. And when they start to heal, the dry skin, because it's hard to explain, but when you do the ripping like I've done, you rip down to many different layers of skin in order to get bleeding, because I don't remember how many layers of skin there are, but there are quite a few. And so in order to make it bleed, you have to rip through all of those. So the first layer heals, so there's no more bleeding, and then there's layers on top of that. And now the struggle is that right now when I go to look at my fingers and I just rub them along there, the first layer that gets healing is the easiest to deal with because it stops the bleeding and stops the pain. Then the second layer gives it a little bit better because it gives it kind of a shiny look to it. I don't know if you can see, but I haven't been picking. But you'll see that there's our scabs. I don't know how to explain it. It's not bleeding anymore, but there's this dry skin that layers on there. And this is the part that drives me crazy because I want to pick it so bad. This is the pleasure point of my finger picking part, is that when I can feel it, I can see this dry skin. It'd be so easy just to flake it off and do whatever I want to do with it. And it just, hello, little. It just kills me because this is what I want to do. I want to pick because this part feels so good. This is the part where the skin comes right off really easily, or I can pick it off and it'll peel all the way around the cuticle. And I find it very interesting that that is enjoyable to me. I don't know how to explain it, but it gives me a little thrill of the soul when I can pick on the dry skin that accumulates in with the healing phase. So the hardest days that I've had in the past have been these 3 days. But the thing that I was talking to about with my friend this morning was that I've been through these days before. I have gone through this situation where I have stopped picking for an incredible amount of time. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and my fingers are just at the point where they start to look beautiful. And then something happens and I either go to trim my cuticles or what happens, but I'm just on the cusp of success and I revert right back down to the pattern. So this going through the day 3 part where it's always really fun to pick and all that kind of stuff, I've been through here before, but there's something different about this time because I want it to be different. This hamster wheel is another outcome that I really, really don't want. I just want this to be the last time that I go through this experience with my fingers. I have a bit more peace now with them, and I'm understanding of how they've been a gift to me and how they've helped me indicate my emotional scale and what I'm processing at the moment and what I'm creating from that process. And it's given me more of a conscious awareness of what's actually going on within myself in my dream generation machine. So having a better idea of what's going on with my feelings has given me a little bit more of a peace because I realize that it's just an indicator. It's much like the gas light on your car. When your gas light comes on, you don't get mad at the gas light and going, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Why do you always have to come on? Well, it's designed to do that. And it's meant as a warning, as an indicator. And if you don't heed the warning, your car's going to run out of gas. And so when I've looked at this with my fingers, I've taken it upon the same way that it's a warning. It's a warning to me that I'm not in a good place emotionally. And, you could sit there and go, yeah, well, that's kind of obvious that you're not in a good place emotionally, Jax. But at the same time, maybe I should take a look at why I'm not in a good place emotionally. And if it's really something that I don't want, it's maybe time to address and find out what I do want. And that could be just as scary sometimes too. Oh my gosh, the insecurities that come up, the unbelief, the worrying about how it's going to affect myself, my life, and my social circle or anything like that. But the first step is to appreciate the indicator. So with the indicator, the last couple days when a friend of mine has been talking to me at work and sharing me a story, and I've thought, first thing, my thought is, oh gosh, do I have an answer for her? How am I supposed to respond? First of all, okay, so that starts to pick. Number one, you're not supposed to listen with the intent to respond. You're just supposed to listen and understand. Second of all, I'm setting myself up for failure and keeping the same pattern going over and over and over again if I constantly put myself in a position where I'm worried about not having the answer. All that's going to generate for me is more situations where I don't have the answer. That's clearly what I don't want, because otherwise I wouldn't be worrying about it. In my mind, if I'm worried about not having the answer, maybe it's what I should ask for is that I could have the answer. Another thing I was talking to about a friend today that was quite profound, that made me realize what was going on, is that oftentimes we ask for the answer. Maybe we don't. Oftentimes we worry that we don't have it. Let me try that again. One of the things I realized in regards to this is focusing on the answer, and that often the answer is in front of us, but we can't see it. So many times we're worried that we won't have the answer, and then if we have the answer, we don't believe that the answer is there or the solution is there. So lately what I've been doing is actually focusing on asking for the ability to recognize the answer or recognize the solution that's in front of me, because if I'm asking for the solution, according to the law of attraction, it's coming back to me. The issue is whether or not I can see it, not whether or not that it's there. Now, if I've never asked for the answer, I can't really beat myself up for it if I can't see it or it's not there, because I've never asked for it. If you're sitting there with a situation that you're really worried and you don't want to ask the answer because you're kind of scared what it is, then if you're worried about not finding the answer and you're worried about, you can't say, well, I can't get out of this rut or I can't do whatever this, well, have you asked for the answer? And if you have you asked from it in a place where you want the solution? Because a lot of times, I know that in the past, if I've had a situation come up and all I can see are all these negative answers, I've really sat and stopped and realized that, why have I not asked for a positive solution and have faith that that positive solution is going to come back to me because I've asked? But if I focus on the lack of the solution, then that a solution hasn't come or I can't see it or any of those things, then that's actually what I'm going to manifest instead of the solution itself. So when I was talking to my friend today, when I have the picking, I've started the new process in my mind that I've tried to create a unconscious habit of doing, because right now it's a very conscious habit. I have to stop and think. I have to take my indicator that I created for myself, this negative thing in my life that has been creating so much shame, and I've realized that it's an actually great thing for me because it's showing me when my stinking thinking is what's running the show. So first of all, I sit there and look at the stinking thinking and realize that's not what I want. And if it's a fear-based thing where I can't see the answer, or if it's a futuristic thing that I'm worried about, I stop for a second and go, okay, well, that's only going to produce more situations where I'm worried about something because I can't see the answer. And that's clearly what I don't want either. So I've stopped for a second. I'm like, okay, what do I want? And what I want is I want a solution, and I want to be able to recognize it and feel good about the solution. That's what I want. And whenever a situation comes up where I'm worried about the solution or things aren't going to work out, realize that if I continue with that thought pattern, I am creating that outcome. It's 100% guaranteed that if I continuously freak out about something, or I continuously think I'm not going to be a success, or I continuously worry about something, I am going to create that because that's what I'm asking for. But if I can stop and go, okay, I just want a reprieve. I would like some relief from this. I would like a solution that provides relief, and I would like to see that solution when it comes in front of me. Because I can tell you right now that in my life, there are so many situations that I don't recognize. About 20 years ago, no, how old is my oldest son? He's 22. 23 years ago, my brother died. And my brother and I were strangers in the same house. We didn't share, even though we lived together, he was not a friend, he was not a brother, he was not a pal, he was not an acquaintance, he was nothing. And it wasn't that we hated each other, we just never connected. So my mother was sharing a story with me that she saw an experience for my younger son. And what's really interesting is that my an experience with my older son. My older son is born on my brother's birthday, the year after my brother died. And he kind of looks like him, and it's very fascinating, even though his personality is very different. So my older son was in a situation where he was able to shine and show a spectacular side to himself. And my mother witnessed it. And it reminded my mother of a time when my brother was a foreman on a seismic crew in Calgary. And he was very well loved for his job. And what amazed me is that 2 days before he died, the owner of the company wrote a letter to my mother explaining how fantastic of a boy my brother was, and that she should be very proud on the way she raised him. Now, if you knew my brother and you knew the relationship with my mother, this was not the person that we met. So she was very shocked by the letter. But what is even more shocking for me is that I never knew my brother to have that kind of brilliance. Now, everybody has a certain amount, and everybody has a certain amount of things that they do. They're fantastic. But I didn't see them in my brother. All I saw was the discord that we had between us and the dysfunction that we had in the family. My view of my brother at that time was that he was the special one and I was not, and that's all I saw. And what really made me focus on this is that I missed it. I missed seeing that amazing person, because the foreman took my brother around to the owner took my brother around. I guess he was a foreman of the seismic crew that he was on. And my brother gave him a tour of the facility, explaining to him what was going on. And that impressed that man so much to the point that he had a letter written to my mother. And it really shocked me that I lived with this person, lived with him, and I never saw that greatness. I never looked at it. I never wanted to see it. I wasn't interested in seeing it. Like, sure, he was my brother, and sure, he probably had some great stuff. But all I remembered about my brother is that he told himself and that he described himself as human garbage. That's all I remember. And my brother called me a couple times before he died, and we talked for we tried to rekindle, or even try to rekindle something, but it was very difficult to do because there was nothing there. And what made me realize about the solutions that I was talking about earlier is that right before my eyes, and I lived with this person, was greatness. And I never saw it because I was too wrapped up in my own story in regards to what was going on. Now, I'm not trying to discount the story because there were parts of my life in the past that sucked, and that's okay because that's the way it was. But I thought about, what other things am I missing? What other participation and greatness of the situation that's in my life am I missing? If I could miss something that big, maybe I could be missing the solutions that are in my life too, that are right in front of my face like that too. And why am I not bringing out the best and the solutions in my life? And maybe that's where all this picking and this stinking thinking is. That's what I'm vibrating the majority of the time. So that's what I'm seeing the majority of the time. The reason that I saw that with my brother is because that's the program that I had going in my mind about my brother. And I wasn't willing to entertain anything else. So on day 3, I thank my fingers for being the indicator. It's going to be very interesting to see what other indicators I have once this is gone of my stinking thinking. Or maybe I'll fix my stinking thinking so I don't have to worry about that anymore. That would be better. I would like that. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you tomorrow.